Hey, welcome back to McLovin Garage. My name's Ryan, and this is my autocross car. This is my 1967 Plymouth Valiant 100 called Llama Barn. I am attempting to make it into an autocross car. I picked it up with no engine installed. It's still not installed. I picked it up with a 4-speed manual transmission. That's an overdrive unit. I picked it up with a bench seat, front and rear. And I picked it up with some steel wheels and dog dish center caps. For those of you that haven't followed along or are new, welcome. Thanks for being here. Here's what I've done with the car so far. I plan to run this car in E Street Prepared class in Autocross. There are a few rules in E Street Prepared. One of them is no internal engine modifications, but you can change some things on the outside as far as intake and exhaust. We'll look that over in just a minute. I can run bigger wheels and tires. I can also run aero, so spoiler front, chin spoiler on the chin spoiler on the front, deck lid spoiler on the rear. But it does need to be a complete street drivable car, which includes door panels and carpet and the like on the inside. When I got this car, it had been sitting for probably 6 months. But prior to that, prior to it even being out and running, it had been sitting in, you guessed it, a llama barn. It needed a full floor. It needed an engine. And it needed some other parts as well. Colin, Jamie's brother from Dead Dodge Garage, did a bunch of that work. Initially it had been a 3-speed on the column and a slant 6. And he put a Magnum V8 and an overdrive 4-speed in it. He put an 8 3/4 rear axle. It's got 323 sure grip gears. It's got Hotchkiss sway bars front and rear. It's got 73 and up front cross member in it, which allowed for front disc brakes. They are manual disc brakes. You can probably see them behind the wheel. He changed the column. The steering column had been a 3-speed on the column, obviously. He got rid of that and put a standard column in it. So now it has no provision for a 3-speed on the column. And he drove it. During said column installation, there was a moment of frustration and he slammed the driver door and broke the driver glass. He drove it that way with a piece of plexiglass for roughly 5 years, which is incredible to me. He also drove it with a trunk that rattled because it didn't have a weather stripping, and he drove it with a half of a grill for a short time, and then once he put the other half in, it wasn't 100%, didn't have all the fasteners, so it squeaked and rattled as well. So that kind of catches you up to when I got it. Plexiglass window, squeaky grill, no engine, no transmission, which is currently the state it's in, a trunk lid that rattles, and steel wheels with Plymouth hubcaps. So now we're going to talk about what I've done to it and what I still need to do. Right now it is the first week of January 2025, and this car needs to be running and driving and ready to go by the beginning of March. So I've got 2 months roughly to have this ready to go. Let's dive in and I'll show you what I've done. Just give it a smack, that helps. First thing I did, these mounts were in pretty bad shape. This one was ripped. This is a factory slant 6 K-frame. So I had this welded up front and rear and had to get a little bit longer bolt to make that work, but that's been welded up. This side was fine, so it should go back together just right. This side was not, so I welded that up and fixed it. And by I welded it up, I mean a friend of mine welded it. Second, I put in a Firm Feel Stage 2 steering box. With that came a larger sector, so I had to get a new pitman arm. But this should really help the handling in this car with the Firm Feel Stage 2 versus the standard gearbox. A little bit quicker ratio, definitely tighter. It is new. This does have a dual pot master cylinder. It does have disc brakes up front. They are manual, which is what I wanted. It will have power steering. That's one of the things I'm giving myself just as make it easier to drive on a more regular basis, is power steering. So those were the first two things that I did with the car. Next, real door glass. I found a parts car, which you've seen on the channel if you've been here. If not, you can go back. I found it way up in Washington. I've got a driver's side window in the car, and it works. It's glass, it sits correctly, it doesn't rattle. It's in the car. 5 years he worked with the plexiglass, and now it has a glass window. Big win for me. Next, new tail lights. These are used tail lights, but they are not broken. The ones that were in it, Colin had just taped with red tape to make legal, but they were in pretty haggard shape. These ones are much better condition. The glasses, or I'm sorry, the lenses are in them. This one actually has the black around it. This one does not. I need to go through and put the black around it. Next, I put a new trunk lock in it. When I got it, the trunk lock didn't work with the key. Now it does. And I put in a new trunk seal. That wasn't terribly difficult. It actually taped up, or I'm sorry, the adhesive worked really well. But it's got a new trunk seal in it, and it works. The floor of the trunk, I washed the car just a few days ago, and the trunk floor was not all wet. So that is in and is working as it should. New trunk seal. You can see the floor has got some rust in it. One of the goals will be to patch these spots with rust. It's on the list. This is actually okay, other than right there. Not too bad, but the rest of it is in pretty good shape, barring those spots. So, new trunk lid. I love this blue under here. The original factory blue always looks good under the trunk. So yeah, new trunk key, new seal, and new tail lights on the rear. Then I found these wheels. These are American Racing Torque lights. They're 17-inch with a 255 rear tire and a 235 front tire. They're, like I said, 17s. I found those on Marketplace. A guy had them on his Demon up in Portland, Oregon, and I went up and snagged those. You can see in my opinion, I think they look pretty cool. Yeah, they're not Steelies and dog dishes, but they're definitely going to be a little bit. It's going to be easier to find Autocross tires in a 17-inch wheel than it was to find them in a 15. And these should be lighter than the Steelies. Then I fixed the grill. This one right here had been broke off, so I had to drill it out and tap it and find hardware to go in it. I got all the hardware down below mounted. All these done. These two right here, obviously you can see they're not factory hardware, but they work. The grill is solid. This was missing. I fixed that one. So I've got a complete grill that doesn't rattle, or shouldn't rattle, I should say, once the engine's in. I also took this front bumper off my parts car. So I took the glass and the front bumper. This bumper is in way better shape than what was on the car before. It's not perfect. You can see there's a little wowie here maybe. I don't know if you can see it in the video. Let me show you the original one. Here's the one that was on it. You can see the chrome's peeling, the top's all wavy and mangled. Looks like it hit something at one point. Just not in good shape. So I removed that and I put the new used one on. So now it's got a new front bumper. So wheels, front bumper, steering box. I did just pressure wash this out. It's still wet from that. Under hood. All right, so what I do to the inside. It had carpet in it when I got it. I peeled all the carpet up because I have Dynamat to go underneath. And so I'm gonna put new carpet back in it, but I want to Dynamat the floor before I do that. And I needed to figure out where these seats bolted in. I got these brackets off Summit Racing. I think they're Locar is the brand of the brackets, but the brackets fit correctly for an A-body. I got this seat from my buddy Jerry. He had it in his GTO until his factory front buckets got fixed or reupholstered. I got that seat and one more. You can see it's kind of off tan because it sat too long out in the sun. I'm going to take some vinyl or some cloth paint, and I'm going to paint it black to match this one. But I was able to get these drilled and bolted. You can see there's still some stuff I need to clean up. But now I know where these can go. They fit correctly. I've got them set up. So this seat sits behind the steering wheel, which leads me to that steering wheel. That is a factory Chrysler tan tough wheel, which I've never seen one before, including the tan center cap. And I bought that from a good buddy of mine who's got several Mopars, and he was gracious enough to sell it to me. It's about 1.5 inches in diameter, smaller than what was in it, and going to make it much easier to get my legs underneath the seat here to get in and out, and also just turning the smaller wheel will just be nice. And I've got power steering, so I don't need a bigger wheel to help it turn. So I got the bucket seats in instead of the bench. I've got the rear out right now, but it's going to go back in as soon as I Dynamat and get everything ready. It'll have a back seat and it'll have the 2 buckets up front. Lots of bolstering on these seats should help me stay in the car. The Mustang that I raced last year had bucket seats, but they were leather and they were not well bolstered, and caused all sorts of grief for me trying to stay in the car while I was cornering. So that's the inside. New steering wheel, bucket seats. It's going to be Dynamated, fresh blue. I'm going to do blue carpet to match the car, and the rear seat will go back in with Dynamat, and the interior will be done. I do have gauges. I'll show you those in a minute. I've got some extra gauges I'm putting in, including a tack, but that'll pretty much finish the interior. I can find reproduction door panels, so I'm gonna get new door panels for the front to match, because I want factory door panels in the car so that everything is kind of complete there. So that gets us to the inside. It's getting dark, so I want to get this part done so I can show you the rest of what I've got going on. But yeah, there's so far the work that I've gotten done on Llama Barn to make it ready to race, and also just to make it easier to live with as a street hot rod. Let's check out the engine. There's the back seats, by the way, which will go back into it here shortly. All right, here's the tack I'm going to put in it with a shift light. It's an auto gauge. Don't mind the donkey. Hi, Liam. Hey, Bubs. Hi, guys. How are you? What do I got there? Hi, Harry. Hi, Mystic. What you doing, little donkey? And then I've got a set of white-faced, these little bit bigger gauges, also by Auto Gauge, water temp, volts, oil pressure. I really want to be able to take good care of this motor and make sure I don't kill it. I'll set the the tack light probably at 5,000. I think it's probably right at 55 right now, but I'll set it at 5. That way, if I get to there and the light comes on, I'll have a little bit of room to shift before I hurt the motor. So those are the gauges. There's the Dynamat that I'm going to put in. It's called Supersonic Acoustic Mat. So heat and acoustic control, that's going to go on the floor before I put the interior back in. Then we've got the engine. New water pump, new timing chain, and gear set. Mylodon oil pan, that's a 6-quart road race pan with baffles. I put a high volume oil pump and a new pickup in. Oil pump is on. I was able to reuse the balancer, it's in good shape. So that's going to get reused. I've got this Summit Racing intake. I got this from Jamie at Dead Dodge Garage. We're going to run it. It came kind of with the package with the car. We'll see how it goes. It's supposed to model an Edelbrock dual plane, and we'll see if it does what it's supposed to do. The freeze plugs on this side looked okay. I did put new block drains in with goop, so those hopefully won't leak. This was fun. Let me get my light. I put in 2 new freeze plugs on the back of the engine. I used Indian head shellac is what it's called around those to get them in there and hopefully sealed. Both of these did not look good. And so I pulled them out, and sure enough there was a bunch of junk behind them. Really glad I pulled them. But I've got 2 fresh freeze plugs back of the engine. That's really hard to get to, obviously, when the bell housing is on. I've got the new drain on this side. Freeze plugs look good here, so I'm not worried about that. Transmission, 4-speed, overdrive, A-body. Hurst Competition Plus, shifter. Hurst white shift knob. It's got a new gasket on the side. All of this has been tightened and freshly put on. I've got, actually, one thing I haven't put in it yet because I just got it. I got the correct speedo gear for the tire size. So I got the correct speedometer gear. This is a 33, I believe. These aren't cheap anymore. I got it from the same, 33. This is from the same friend that I got the steering wheel with. He gave me this and the steering wheel together. Package deal. But yeah, new cover. I need to put that gear back in here. This transmission's in pretty good shape. Got a nice fresh seal on it. I did have to put the right bearing retainer for the overdrive and my big bell housing. But yeah, everything's ready to go with the transmission, other than that speedometer gear. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's the bell housing down here. It's painted up. I even got the inspection cover with it, thankfully. Those aren't super cheap anymore. But yeah, bell housing, inspection cover, Champion radiator, big Champion radiator. I've got an AVS 2 carb. I've got all my pulleys. And then up here, I think you probably, if you don't, on Instagram and on Facebook, it's McLovin Garage. But you can see a lot of these the progress on this project. It's hard to say. These are Wyand aluminum valve covers, kind of old school, that are going to go on the car. What else? Starter, plug wires. I do have a fan back here that's going to go on it. So I've got that. But yeah, right now I need to get this painted, and it's cold in Oregon, so I'm going to have to heat the shop up for a while, degrease this engine really good, and I'm going to try to paint it blue to match the intake and the valve covers. I'm going to leave the pan the gold that it is already. I'm not going to mess with that, but I do want to paint the engine before I put it in. So right now, next step is engine paint, and then getting the bell housing, the flywheel, or flex plate, I should say. Yes, get that on, clutch, mate the transmission to the engine. I need to take this, at least the stick off. And then it'll be ready to stab into the car. There's the old steering wheel, which I still love, but it is bigger. It does have a crack in it. So yeah, oh yeah, here's the old tail lights with the tape on them. So they did their job, but I found a nicer set, so they went in the car. But yeah, there's the old steering wheel. So engine paint, made it up to the transmission, and then all of it's going to go in together under the car. Oh, let's talk about exhaust for a minute. So I had this dual exhaust out to the very back, which was great. Thrush mufflers. If you've watched Jamie's videos, it does sound pretty good. I'm going to go a little different route with my exhaust. I'm running factory manifolds. This engine doesn't make enough power to really warrant a set of headers right now, and I don't want to deal with it. Say what you will, headers are a pain in the butt. They're hard to keep sealed up. They are difficult to put on and off, take on and off. It's difficult to do maintenance on the car with spark plugs and anything around the steering components. I just don't want to deal with it right now, and that engine isn't going to be such a ripper that it's going to matter a whole lot. So I'm running factory manifolds. I'm going to run dual exhaust, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen an old Trans Am car. I'll put a Trans Am racing car. I will put maybe a picture or two of the exhaust system. But it's going to come out on either side, right in front of these back wheels. Right here is my plan. So it's going to come out probably, 2 or 3 inches from the wheel opening. It's going to come out, I don't know, about an inch or two just up past the body and stop there. And I'm going to run it that way on both sides. That way I don't have to go all the way to the back, save some weight. I don't have to try and fight through around the suspension and the gas tank. Hopefully it'll sound good, and I think it'll look kind of cool, and it'll be kind of that reminiscent of that road race Trans Am style car from the 70s, 60s, and 70s. So that's the look I'm going for with the exhaust. Again, I'm running factory exhaust manifolds. It is what it is. Probably either I'm probably honestly going to run some Flowmaster 40s. It needs to be quiet enough that I can run it on Autocross in a parking lot without people being upset. There is a decibel level in my local Autocross, and they will kick you out if you're too loud, so it needs to be reasonable. And so that's, I think with the exhaust manifolds and the mufflers, it'll sound great, but it will not get me kicked out of the race. So in a nutshell, this is my Autocross build. Last year I raced a Mustang. If you haven't watched any of those videos and you're curious as to what that looks like, please go back and watch those. If you haven't seen some of those previous videos to this has taken a long time to get here. I had to buy a parts car. I went and bought this car from Jamie and drove all the way up to Aberdeen, Washington for it. The parts car was way out in the gorge, which is a long way in Oregon here from where I live. The wheels and tires were in Portland. I've just been all over for parts and pieces for this car, and it's slowly coming together. So I've got 2 months to get that motor in the car and running, and then I want to put some test miles on it on the street. It will be street drivable. It will have all its headlights and taillights and blinkers. It will have seat belts. It'll have all of that and be a driver, but it's also going to be a race car. So if you like it, please subscribe. Please hit the like button. Comments, questions, suggestions are warranted. Please throw those on down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. It's going to be a fun car. It's light. It's small. I think with the wheel and tire package and the suspension package that's already under it with the sway bars and it's got, I didn't say it's got subframe connectors. So subframe connectors, disc brakes up front, sway bars front and rear. It should handle pretty good. And then with a small block with a little bit of extra horsepower with the 4-barrel intake and 4-barrel intake and 4-barrel carb, it should be enough for Autocross. You don't need to make big power to have fun at Autocross. And I'm of the opinion that it's fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow. And I'm looking forward to it. So down the line, will there be another engine in this car? Probably. But right now, my budget and my time allows for me to run a pretty factory small block 318 and the 4-speed overdrive. So, that's the other thing I was going to say. I wanted to run the overdrive. I know the splits aren't great from first to second, but I wanted the overdrive because I want to be able to drive this to races. It's not going to be a trailer queen. I plan to drive it. I plan to run it on the street. I plan to drive it on the highway. I want it to be a jack of all trades and master of none, really. So I went with the 4-speed overdrive so that I can drive it to events and drive it at 75, 80 on the highway and have fun with it at the autocross and drive it home. So that's the other reason that I've got the overdrive transmission in it. We'll see how it holds up. I imagine with a small block that's not a high performance small block, it shouldn't eat itself and should still be fun. But we'll see. We're gonna find that out together as we build this car and race it. So once again, thanks for being here. Appreciate it very much. My name is Ryan. This is McLovin Garage. This is my 1967 Plymouth Valiant 100 called Llama Barn, and it is going to be so fun to race this next year. Take care, everybody.